Hey, welcome to Musicians on the Record. I am David Ward. We are on Facebook Live with the wonderful David Wilcox in Portland, Maine, 1 Longfellow Square. How are you, David?
I'm doing good. It's an interesting time waiting for the gig to start. You can hear the creaking of the footsteps. We're down sort of below the sort of where people are walking in. There are a lot of gigs I play like this where the backstage area is sort of underneath and you hear the creaking of the floorboards as people walk in. And of course there's names all over the walls of all the people who've played here. And I love seeing, names of friends, and I try not to think of, all the other ways my music could be. And looking at all these names, it sometimes gets sort of distracting, thinking about the choices that I've made and how it is a humbling craft. And I love the time now before the gig is the time to focus in. I just play my guitar. I sort of settle my thoughts. I focus on where I want the music to take me, how I want to feel at the end of the night. I think about sort of getting more soulful, getting more present, getting more vulnerable, And so the danger for me in a setting like this is I could start sort of thinking about my music objectively, sort of comparing it to all the other different ways of doing music, which are all wonderful. I see voco up on the wall. I think, I wish I was here for that. But I wasn't. And so I think about how all these cool musicians bring their stuff and they have their unique thing. And so that is all a beautiful thing, but not for right now. For right now, I somehow have to find the permission for me to get really present with sort of not just what I can do, what I've done. I need to get present with sort of how I am now, where's my gratitude. And it's a subtle sort of shift of my focus. I'm grateful for music that it makes me do this, because it's a spiritual practice,
It sounds spiritual. Is there a feeling that you want from tonight, you want the crowd to have?
Well, it's weird. I think I've been out sailing for the past week or so, and so music will be fresh for me. If I haven't played in a few days, all the songs are sort of, I hear them in a different way. I hear them with a new perspective. And so tonight will be really fun. And it'll be a little bit disorganized. I'll probably get into a song I can't get out of. And so I want to somehow find what's fresh and what's powerful for me tonight. I want to play the things that I need to hear, the songs that will sort of make me sane. So that's what I'm after.
Oh, amazing. I've seen you a number of times, and I never said an intention about it, but your music just makes me happy. So that's my intention, and I imagine I'm just happy right now talking with you. Is your name on the wall in here? I would imagine it is.
I wouldn't know where to look for it. It may well be. I usually write really small, and I usually find a humble corner. There have been times in my life where I drive to a city where I've never played and I find a gig that's new to me. I check out the venue, and after seeing all this new stuff, I come downstairs and my name is on the wall. I have signed it. So that means I have completely forgotten that I had been there. And it's impossible. How could I forget? And yet it's weird. I don't tie the geographic location to the sort of emotional story of the night, because my job is to be sort of an emotional tour guide and not a geographic tour guide. I never got those bands that would like root for their state. I don't get that sort of tribal geographic thing, but there is something fascinating about how once I get to the gig, I don't need to know where I am. So I don't.
So the attachment is to the music, to the audience, not necessarily the place.
Yeah, yeah. There are different feels for different crowds, and yet I've tested that out, and sometimes I realize that my presuppositions can lead me astray. Sometimes if I'm playing in a particular city and I think it has a particular sort of expectation, there's some songs that work in Texas that don't work in Boston, and I feel like it's weird. Sometimes I can do that wonderful magic if I can change my presuppositions by just kind of pretending. If I'm feeling like, oh, this is going to be a tough room, man, it would be so much easier if I were in whatever, Colorado or something. I can just say, well, there's no windows. Why couldn't we be in Colorado? And so I just kind of play a few songs as if I were in Colorado. And what that does to my presuppositions, what that does to my assumptions, can be powerful. It's kind of fun.
You can sort of transport yourself anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world, right? When we spoke a few weeks ago on the interview, and that'll be coming out soon on Musicians on the Record, one of the things that really stuck with me is when you're doing a gig like this, a show, you usually do not plan out a set list. It's organic. It's in the moment. Is that true tonight as well?
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll get a feel for a song that I can start with, a song that I have no reservations, I can just commit to, and one that I can really stand behind. And so I'll start there, and then I'll sort of see how that goes, and halfway through that song I'll get a hint about where to from here. I think since it's a Friday, now here's assumptions, I may be wrong. Since it's a Friday, we may need a little more humor than usual to get started. There's just some shaking off of the week that we have to do, so it may be a little more, we'll see. I don't know.
One of my Facebook followers asked me to ask you about, obviously one of the a lot of people's favorite albums is How Did You Find Me Here? So many great songs on it. Eye of the Hurricane, Saturday, They'll All Be Back Again. They wanted to know, is there a story behind the song How Did You Find Me Here?
Yes, and that the story has evolved over years. It's a song of gratitude. It's a song of homecoming. It can be a song of faith. It can be a song of grace. And it can also be a friendship, kind of a reconciliation. So it depends on the night. And but what originally wrote it was just being humbled and really wanting that feeling of a soulful connection again, and feeling forgiven. Yeah.
It's such a beautiful song and beautiful music. When we also talked a few weeks ago, we talked about your custom songs. The other thing on your website is musical medicine, which I love. As we talked about as a therapist and coach, that musical medicine for if you're heartbroken, if you're newly found in love, if you're depressed, anxious, recovering from addiction. Where did that come from? That inspiration for musical medicine?
The stuff that's on the website is songs organized by emotional category. And where that started was kind of a nod to this thing that I do where I make up songs for people on the spot. And I do that usually once every gig. But in the summertime, I do it all week long at Omega, and it is a lovely thing. It changes the way my brain works. I will listen to somebody's story, ask them a few questions. It just takes a minute or two, and then I will kind of wait for a hint, a little nudge, a musical idea, and I'll take off and make up a song with, a different melody and fresh chords and words that rhyme, and it all just kind of flows out about their story, and it can be really healing and powerful and cathartic. It is one of the more fun things I do, because I can just barely do it, and it requires just everything I've got in terms of focus and concentration.
Amazing. I love it. Your last album, Blaze, out, I believe, in 2014. You are a prolific songwriter. How many albums now? 16, 17?
There are others that are download only, so it may be 20 some.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Okay. So if the last one was out around 2014, if I'm correct, could we expect a new album coming soon from you?
Yeah, there are songs, and they are being recorded, and there's a little fundraiser thing happening, so I can get great sounds on that record, and I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. Can't wait for it. Is there anything else you want to say to your fans, to the world, any of the audience that might watch this a little bit later in Portland, Maine?
It is a fascinating time, this sort of backstage getting ready, and it is it's a very different kind of I can already notice that this is the time where you're kind of lowering the bucket into the well, and so the stuff that I'm sort of focused on right now is really interior, so it's an interesting time to be talking to lots of people.
Yes.
But I will say that that I hope it serves, and I'm looking forward to playing tonight.
I think your music always does serve. I know you've got to get ready, so we won't take any more of your time. David Wilcox, thank you so much for being on Musicians on the Record.